In this video, there's this discussion and a breakdown of the quote-unquote SA abuse, the vile behavior and the abuse of such manner, as well as the spirits involved, and how it goes from the greatest down to the least is put to consideration because of such defilement on that level when representing the Most High Himself, and even affecting the least among them too. See, yes, it is children involved in the situation. That's already enough legal trouble right there. That's also with the women, including those who do not want to be treated like that, but want to be treated as a woman of the faith as well too. So that is also two more witnesses and such grounds, especially in the side of the Most High Himself too, of how He's had the intervention of Susanna when David was moved to examine those two wicked men as being false, even when they were in great esteem in the assembly. Those two elders who have been doing that kind of filth for a long time have been met with the day of their judgment. And as a result, the evil they wanted for her was put on them, was met unto them in the judgment, and those two wicked men were held guilty in judgment and condemned, while the innocent woman was set free to continue in her life and faith and what she was doing from there on before the situation happened and then going forth. Third, to consider, and this gets really very looked at. So what is overlooked is the SA abuse, the vile erotic abuse in different shapes, forms, and fashions towards men, not just in that one particular area, but in other areas that is damaging to them. That I will get into detail as well too, as well as how Straitway talks about the certain areas for conversation, as well as so-called ministering the word. There's areas where reality has to be considered, as well as what is said and shown in the scriptures, including what's considered the Apocrypha. And then you have the other areas too where when measuring that area and mishandling it, going off into immorality as well as doctrinal error, either one of the two that follows, whether it's immorality or false doctrine. See, with that, when it affects someone's spiritual condition with the Most High, as well as spirits affecting them and using them to make them polluted, corrupted, defiled, and just making them do evil, speak evil, think evil, desire to do evil, and wanting to do evil when the scripture says otherwise, especially the Apocrypha as shown, and especially not forgetting what's mentioned is being guided by the Ruach HaKodesh, the authentic Holy Spirit. Because such people, when they go into certain areas, of course they have to study out. They not only have to just speak it but do it properly, and they can't be lying and trying to fix things and make it look like it's gonna so-called pass when it's a counterfeit, when it's a great big mistake. So much mistakes were made when preparing that, as well as bringing it forth, so that those who see it realize, hey, wait a minute, what they're saying and what they're doing, it's not adding up. There's something wrong here. Something very wrong. And when you have people of such intent, you're going to learn that these people are doing the wrong thing and trying to make it look good in front of people's eyes. So that affects even the spiritual level of the whole chain of command. Now, to start with this, first and foremost on the spiritual level, see, let's consider the Torah first and foremost, as well as the principle that's shown in the letters from Paul and the apostles in the area of the quote-unquote New Testament. When you go to the letters, for the people who are very particular in their choice of words and such, to know that you know what you're talking about and all that perspective and so forth. The word of Yahweh is sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting asunder, dividing between the soul and the spirit, as well as the thought and the intent of a man's heart. So what's being said here? I have to include this for this. This has to be included for context, so that both the person communicating this as well as the listener can understand this clearly, with clarity and sound understanding and sound teaching. See, when someone can do polygyny the proper way, and it has to be done the proper way in the sight of the Most High, because it's not only physical, where it's done, where you make it look good in front of the sight of people, to the senses, especially to the eyes and the ears, from the speaking and the doing, in front of their eyes and ears, in front of their hearing and seeing. But it's also spiritual too, where someone who has some kind of sense, has discernment, has a particular area of discernment where they can say, hey, X, Y, and Z and so forth. They look at something and see where it's lacking, where it's right, where it's looking great, where it's looking terrible and very suspect and so forth. What is true, what is false, where they have some kind of what some people would call intuition, a knowing, and different forms of and types of discernment and like discernment. See, if someone's going to do polygyny, they have to make sure the man's going to cover that woman, and that woman's there to be covered and to do her part in the agreement. Even if she's not a virgin, and if the father mother of that woman's involved or her near family's involved, that way both that man who's is either offering or being offered the marriage or the union, either from or towards that woman, and in other cases, young maiden, woman of a marriageable age in that particular area, and depending on the culture and environment you live in, as well as the mind of the people, because over the spiritual condition, as well as the minds, thoughts, and intents of the people. Because over here in the West, the Americas, the way, especially quote unquote North Americans, are raised as well as taught, there are going to be men out there who can cover women properly in the marriage union, even if those women are of a virgin status or they're not a virgin status. And you have other cultures out in the world where, even though they're simple in so many different areas, where they're like a genuine person, humble, simple in different areas, there's other areas where they're mature in, so they're simple in some areas and sophisticated in others. So there's different cultures out there outside of the, quote unquote United States of America, outside the Union, outside the 50 states of America, of North America, where people can communicate, and have solid dialogue with one another. That way, the man and the woman know what they're going to get into when they get married. And the families involved of those two and those around them, their social environments such as friends, associates, as well as their community, know what's going to their level and extent and what they need to know basis, depending on their involvement, are informed of when that union is being put together and that marriage is consolidated. And that depends on the culture too, whether it be the woman's, even if the woman's not a virgin, she's just given a the so-called marriage ceremony to be remarried or taken up remarriage after her situation and status and so forth. And if it'd be good that she's been made a widow, or if she's been given a bill of divorce so she can go marry another. That way both the man as well as the woman are going to be mature, responsible, and communicate in that union. And the families as well as people involved who are going to be in the knowledge and be informed of that union, that marriage, know the guidelines of both of them so that they can be informed of how to be of a support and as well as part of, the larger collective where it's needed. That way, the man and the woman get the help they need in their marriage where needed and the support. And if they call on the Most High and prayer, then they can seek help there too, whether it be either his flesh, her flesh, and if they're in polygyny, if anyone else's, whether it's the man's flesh or any of the women's flesh, that's causing the breakup in the situation, or if it's evil spirits that's causing trouble, whether it's trying to affect them to their flesh, affect their hearing, perception, and seeing, and behavior towards one another, especially when they communicate the wrong way, or they're communicating and the person's receiving the information the wrong way. And of course, outside influence from evil spirits using people. So what's being communicated in that chunk right there? The thoughts and the intent of that union of marriage, whether it be with a marriage of a virgin or marriage of a woman who's in a position to be or is able to be remarried, because either her previous husband or man over her gave her a bill of divorce, or he passed away, or crossed over into eternity. Either way you put it, his days has been concluded. And generally speaking, that way there's no breach between the man and the woman, or the man and the women, as well as with the Most High Himself, Yahweh, Elohim. So in that union, from the beginning, the middle, and the end of it, it has to be considered. Was everything done right? And if there's any mistakes that can be amended, can they be fixed, and how can they be fixed? Because there's very few unions out there of there's very few things that are very dangerous to toy around with. The red flags, the red zones, the areas you just don't toy around with. And there's reasons, as people have a general understanding as to why. And the scriptures are very clear when it comes to different areas of sexual morality, whether it be things such as the wrong types of marriage within the family, the extended family, as well as within the clan, nation, civilization, and so forth, as well as wrong marriage between the man and the woman, different forms such as adultery, rape, grape, because some people just want to bust their grapes, right? Male or female. They're just trying to get the rocks off. That's also another trespass too. The trespass of the man to go relieve himself through a woman and not take responsibility of her. As well as a woman who's trying to relieve herself too, and she goes out there to go hunt down a man and go entice him and to bring him in to disgrace either her father, if he's alive, or her stepfather, even her uncle or near family, to dishonor, disrespect them by seeking a man, not having them being introduced to find out if that man's going to be a good fit for her. Even going so far as to play the whore within her family's household. And that can get her into the red zone. And let's not forget the people who want to, justify their sins unto death. There's been very few people in the scriptures from the Old Testament and New Testament where they messed up big time. And they have spent a very long time to make amends for that by a great deal, such as Apostle Paul, who spent a great amount of time being persecuted for what he did and also what he's going to suffer and endure. So there's stuff he had to pay for and stuff that he was being cleansed, purged, and purified and prepared for, so that he may be prepared to go to the kingdom. As well as mentioned that he's done all these things in the hopes to be ready to go to the kingdom. And he even said that he is not a cheat, but he's made an effort to press in as much as he can. Then you have people where people want to jump on this bandwagon and whatever spirits they have in them, in their condition, they want to pull their King David card on people. They want to willfully sin and justify it when King David clearly was called out for what he did, and because he wanted a judgment on that, he wanted judgment instead of seeking mercy because of his emotions and what he wanted in that story, the situation that was given to him as presented by the prophet Nathaniel. That judgment came on his household. So he paid for numbering the people, and he especially paid when the devil took a hold of him and used him to obtain Bathsheba through unrighteous means. So what's being said here is that in the sum of this, the sum of this here is that on this part right here, before going back to the larger part, is that, see, very few people have an understanding of how marriages work. So someone who's had experience with different marriages, whether they were right to some kind of level, whether they were working out to some kind of level, or they were just bad overall and they just kept getting married, remarried, married, remarried, more than once or twice. So they have 2, 3, 4 plus marriage experiences. Or if, say for example, they've come from different parts of the world and been able to practice polygyny. So there's going to be unions where so few people are going to be excellent examples of how to be a well-oiled machine of a monogamous marriage. And there's going to be plenty of examples out there where people with their flesh, their natural, their the parts of them that still has to be worked on, as well as areas that they slip up in, life happens to them too, and situations happen to them too. So there's going to be plenty of examples of polygyny out there that are successful. And even some marriage unions where when polygyny was added to it, a sister wife to where that wife has a sister, and it helps with the household duties, the raising of the children and everything else. And then you have where the other dynamics come in where the man's not going to be having certain challenges in front of him, and he's going to be able to have the work of the household gets lighter because there's more hands available. And the other thing too is that some women, they have their own way of communicating among each other as sisters, as friends, and so forth. So women have certain areas of understanding among one another. So there's areas where they can be friends, sisters, as well as colleagues, and just get along as a team and a team dynamic to certain extents of different areas, and how to grow and are around each other for much of time. So as a result, you're going to squash some other problems when you have accountability involved. So for example, the man could be off on a business trip to go take care of business matters and increase the money for the household, as well as bringing in assets such as resources, and again, whether it be finances or decisions and so forth, especially if it's decisions to secure for the children as well as among themselves and each other, then that man's gonna be gone for, who knows, maybe a few days, a week, even as long as a month or so, or taking care of other important duties. So he may be gone for over a month or so. And so the women among each other have to keep each other accountable. So whenever some guy is just going about his day, or he gets some ideas in his head to go gawk, or trying to go entice, or continue to communicate to those women in the wrong direction for the wrong reasons too, and even in ignorance as well too, then those women can talk with among each other to hold each other accountable. Then there's extended family too, and the women of the community as well, involved in certain areas too, so they can be involved to keep that woman accountable too. That way, the woman doesn't step on and commit adultery, or be foolish and try to so-called entertain that man, or entertain that guy. So to wrap up this chunk right here to the larger area being mentioned, you have this area in particular where if you're going to practice marriage properly in the sight of the Most High, even polygyny, you have to practice it properly in the sight of the Most High. Because there's instruction in there too to not practice iniquity, not to be a respecter of persons, when it's especially mentioned in judgment, in matters of judgment. And it's supposed to teach you not only quote unquote character, but also dynamics and how to function in life too. You don't go out there and be a respecter of persons. You don't go out there and play people and just brave them left and right just to play people off and do them dirty, or try to be crooked. It will mess up the environment. The crookedness, as well as the bribery, as well as playing people with respecting their persons. They cause jealousy, envy, contention, strife, as well as all other forms of evil by diminishing one person and lift up another beyond their boundaries, beyond their office, their position, just showering one person left and right, and neglecting the other, and even going so far as to maltreat and be disrespectful and abusive to one person, and to just treat the other good for the wrong especially for the wrong reasons, such as abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, as well as other forms of abuse, and all these other dynamics that get involved to cause maltreatment in the environment, as well as among the people and how they treat one another and what their dealings are with one another. And then the bribery and the crookedness. So, say for example, either the person gets divorced or remarried, or they, so-called separate and don't get the, that the woman doesn't receive her bill of divorce when they get separated. The separation happens, and the woman's not given the bill of divorce, because the intent of that split was to basically get that woman away. So she was not given the bill of divorce just to keep her away, but not let her go free, because again, putting that woman away was to keep her away, but not let her go free. So in the abuse of that area where people who will abuse of the putting away to separate from one another, and just continuously separate and keep that separation perpetual, to where that woman's not giving her freedom to go be someone else's through that bail divorce. And then there's crookedness too, where the man's not supposed to diminish from the first wife. And it plays the other way around too, where the woman's not supposed to be crooked and underhanded either, to diminish her sister or her friend, or otherwise what they consider in general speaking, sister wife. So crookedness from the first wife, or crookedness from the other woman added to the household, or to the man's tent, household, or environment, or his marital life, marital environment in the prospective areas. So he has his marital duties to the first wife, as well as marital duties to the second. And each one has to be responsible in her part too. So she's not doing sin, she's not being crooked, and she's not using nor doing anything in that marriage, nor outside the marriage, nor anything that would hope in the hopes and the expectation to not do anything that would bring trouble or evil towards that marriage because of transgression, whether it's transgression towards people in the particular areas that it's warned about, either by the law itself in the scriptures, or otherwise in the prophets, as well as other areas of the Old Testament and New Testament, where people are out there doing all sin, iniquity, and transgression, especially towards the Most High, to where that woman will go so far as to shame her man, to shame the husband, and shame herself, as well as shame her household, those involved with her, especially by transgression against the Most High, and all these other dynamics involved. See, when marriage, one way or another, is being mishandled, and it's being allowed, especially in abuse towards the man or the woman, and as well as the environment as well too, the thought and intent of that marriage, marital life and environment, and all other areas and aspects, to throw in the face of the Most High, to transgress against Him. See, it gets bad when either at the beginning, the middle, or the end of that marriage was done wrong. Oh yeah, it's right there in the Torah right there too. If a woman's expelled to another man, and someone just comes in like a ninja and just, defiles that woman, or just, basically, quote unquote, man steals, or just pulls a slick one and entices her to be with this smooth guy, this guy who just slides in and, basically steals that man's spouse, quote unquote, takes the guy's woman or lady or spouse, either way they want to dress it up, but just goes in there and just steals someone's spouse, and it gets investigated and found out, whether it's given to the people in the environment, such as the judges at that time, or the Most High has to intervene at some point when they don't want to get right in their wicked doing, their evil. It's not good to go in there and snatch up some of the guy's woman, especially if there's a breakdown in communication too, and how people are vague and they don't want to communicate in some places and some points. There's a bunch of different areas where it can just go wrong, and it can start off wrong too. And again, especially when some guy comes in and wants to swoop up or take another guy's fiancée, expels the woman unto himself, and make her be that the guy to take her and to make her to be his instead. That's wrong on the side of the Most High Himself. No matter what flavor you want to put yourself, whether that person's either a quote unquote Muslim, quote unquote Christian, quote unquote Hebrew Israelite, it's right there in the law. And the law is spiritual too. So even if it's not given into the hands of man to sort that out, Most High is gonna roll up his, proverbial sleeves and come and see about you, one way or another. He's got judgment stored up for the scoffers too. So do that and mock the Most High. He's got something treasured up for you at some point, whether it be at the very beginning, during that union, or even at the end of that union. Hey, he can make someone's life start falling apart and start crashing. Start laying, the appointed judgments for that person, whether it be evil spirits to torment that person, or to get in that person and start, those spirits get access to that person, just how evil spirits get access to King Saul, took him off the deep end, got him judged. And hey, even the Most High Himself just come in and start judging that person. Just tear that person's life to shreds, and then start pouring out the rest of His indignation, His fury and wrath on that person. Because there's people out there who are going to tread the Most High. There's going to be people even who will try to blaspheme the Most High. And there's going to be people who are going to insult and speak evil against the Most High. And even try to wrestle against the Most High Himself through various means, including taking another man's woman, whether she be expelled or married unto that guy. And other means too, especially when doing monogamy the wrong way, celibacy the wrong way too. How can some people do that? Oh yeah, here's a good reminder too. Someone who separates from their partner but doesn't want to, they do it perpetually and don't want to get back together. They just want to continuously keep that separation going and going and going. So they're going to continue to keep that person basically unmarried and single, intentionally or unintentionally, and even out of ignorance, to the point where the other person suffers because they can't go get remarried. Because if they were to do so, they would get in trouble and be at risk, especially the woman herself, where she's not given the bill of divorce to be set free at liberty. So she doesn't have that certain areas of that marriage union that she had been part of held against her, and the obligations and the responsibilities held against her, especially at the judgment, at the resurrection. Oh boy, you don't want to play with the Most High, I'm telling you. You especially don't want to play with His Spirit, because He searches out knowing the inward parts of Yahweh Elohim to make them known, but He takes the spirit of man and He searches the inward parts. And those of you who have the Ruach HaKodesh, the authentic Holy Spirit, you want to be sure to continue to do right in the sight of the Most High, in the sight of the Father, Yahweh Elohim. And then even if you have to, depending on how you're communicated to, how you're reached, how you can be addressed, that way you can get the help so that it can be given from the Most High unto you to know where you're messing up in that union, if you're in one or was part of one, such as a separation that was not consolidated by a bill of divorce, for example, and so forth. That way you can repent, apologize to him, and get it covered in the blood of the Lamb. And even in some areas such as iniquity, transgression, and so forth, get that covered too, especially if you're in the faith and he's going to hear you out. That way, you don't have something that's you don't have something that's going to show up at the judgment, nor affect you in this present life consistently, or at some point going to just drop on you and just mess up your situation or mess up someone else's situation because of something you did, even out of ignorance or even willingly too, at some points, even before or after the faith, after the knowledge of the truth of the faith, and even while in the faith, at some points too, before the faith and while in the faith. So, first and foremost, the way you are operating when it comes to marriage, whether it be, again, celibacy for reasons, monogamy, as well as polygyny. See, when you do it the wrong way and you make a breach, you mess up, and it puts a barrier, a gap, some level of barrier and separation between you and the Most High. Especially when the person gets evil spirits involved, whether they give place to them or they affect them. In worst case scenario, they end up with such evil spirits, and they have to be cast out in the mighty name of Jesus, and they refuse to repent to be set free of those evil spirits. Then that's where even SA abuse in that area, the various means, especially SA abuse, can affect someone's relationship with the Most High as a child of the King. Second part is when the Son is involved, YHWH HaMashiach, also known as Jesus Christ, involved. See, with this, it's helpful to refer to this as well as mention of what's talked about even with the parables in the New Testament too, including the letters, as well as another resource too that's considered a major chunk of the book itself missing, apocryphal, if you want to put in that example. So there's this other book mentioned out there that's a collection of material that was taken out of the scriptures itself, and it was preserved and not entirely gone for good, so it's information out there that's useful. So with this information, it talks about even how even the Son, how he was doing covering too.